I'm Matthew Garber,
I'm Hunter Leon.
and you're listening to Sports Weekly. And this week we're going to talk about a couple topics that are hot in sports right now.
Starting off at the U.S. Open, Novak Djokovic, one of the all-time greats in tennis, had to retire mid-match due to an injury, and the crowd's reaction was very sour. He was booed off the court, and they voiced their displeasure. This shows extreme toxic fanship in sports, especially the last few weeks with the news of Lux retiring and the fans booing him as well.
I feel like now, recently, fans in sports stadiums, it's becoming a real issue now, especially after we saw the fans boo Andrew Luck when he announced his retirement kind of like mid-game in week 3 of the preseason. So people clearly noticed that he was on the field and started to boo him. But I feel like it's crazy because most of these fans have never even played a snap of football or tennis in their entire lives, and then they decide to just boo they feel entitled to boo these people because they can't. If they can't compete, they can't compete.
Yeah, and it also feeds into the toxic manhood because, like, no other person would wear a jersey of a team you don't play for and still feel like you're on the team and have that same hate. It's like people don't watch like Grey's Anatomy wearing scrubs, like feeling like, oh, if we done better, we could have saved that guy. Like, oh, we didn't play enough defense. It's like you're not on the team. Yeah. He's actually out there risking his body.
I 100% agree. It's the same thing. I feel like Andrew Luck, and it comes to Jokic too, I feel like they know when it's time if they can't compete. I don't think they understand that people pay their hard-earned money to go see them play. They understand that people want to see them play. Their Luck especially and Jokic being such a great, they want to see them play, but sometimes doesn't register to them.
They're just people. Their bodies can only take so much. Luck had to walk away from $100 million.
Yeah, that's another thing too. It's not like it's an easy decision for these people. Football is their lives. If you're at that talent level, you're this is what you've been doing your entire life. So Andrew Luck walking away from huge contracts, endorsements, the culture. I don't know if he was a top 3 highest paid quarterback, but I know he was
up there.
He was up there. So he's walking away from a lot of stuff, and people have real lives as well, just like you fans have real lives as well. I think it's just something that I don't know if the league should start taking a look at the way things are, but there's definitely something that should be said by these leagues.
This types of behavior should be disavowed, and the leagues are responsible for making sure that this will not be tolerated or promoted.
Yeah, if they should definitely have more. I know when I don't know if they do it now, but when I was younger, when Shea Stadium was still a thing before City, they used to have like a lot of ground rules before the games, and I feel like if they put more emphasis on that, then the fans would be a lot more. Maybe at first it won't really register to people, and they'd be like, "Oh, I'm paying money to go see this, and you're giving me a list of rules." But I think they should try to make it more. Give more reminders, be a little more respectful, and these people are people as well. Just you're not on the same talent level as them playing on this field. It doesn't give you the entitlement to scream or boo or whatever the case may be.
Moving on to entitlement, Antonio Brown with the Raiders is still dealing with his helmet fiasco. Do you know if he's going to play tomorrow or next Monday rather?
See, that's a great question. I honestly, I was thinking about it the other day too. Antonio Brown to me, at first I was thinking, you see Le'Veon Bell leave the Steelers as well with his whole contract fiasco, and then you see Antonio Brown complaining about Big Ben and everything going on in Pittsburgh with the management and the front office. But now at this point, I just feel like you watch Hard Knocks too. You could see, I just feel like at this point it's Antonio Brown's own problem. I don't know what the deal with the helmet is. Maybe it's not as comfortable as the new one is, or whatever the situation may be. Maybe he wants to protect his head. Again, you see how many people are injured and concussions happen. But I really do think this is an Antonio Brown problem. I think he's really looking to I don't know what he's looking to do.
He's making it about him and not trying to buy into like the Raiders culture, because he still could have been out there and just like bit the bullet and still dealt with it on the side, but he wanted to make it all about him.
Antonio Brown to me is, I'm not sure if he was always like this, but to me is turned into, in my personal opinion, I believe quarterbacks make receivers. That's how it's always been. I think Big Ben is obviously one of the greats, and I think you take a look at Juju Smith-Schuster, who I believe was a high second-round draft pick, and now he's probably the 4th best wide receiver on all your fantasy boards.
You would have to be an exceptional talent to be quarterback-proof, kind of like DeAndre Hopkins.
Exactly, and you could see that with Tom Brady too. Tom Brady has
he has the most loaded Patriots team for a while.
Yes, and usually you don't. Besides Randy Moss, I really can't I mean, I'm not saying
Wes
there's no,
Welker,
I'm not saying there's no talent with Wes Welker or Julian Edelman or
Deion Branch.
yeah, but I do think a lot of that does go credit to the quarterbacks, and I think Antonio Brown has a little bit of an ego thing where it's like, I deserve more, I deserve this, and it would not surprise me if we see Antonio Brown retire very shortly.
He doesn't need the money, and if he doesn't want to play football the way he sees fit, he can just walk away.
Especially in Oakland, because we're actually going to get to that in a little bit about predictions for the NFL season, but I really don't see Oakland making a lot of noise this year.
It just seems like a mess.
Yeah, that whole situation's weird too, because how is Derek Carr going to perform, and how's that O-line going to hold up, and there's a lot of question marks going into that second season. We saw John Gruden, going into the first season with John Gruden, I had very high hopes for that team, and now it's just like,
what's he gonna do?
yeah, they got rid of Khalil Mack, and you saw how that went. For Chicago had a tremendous season, and
they're gonna build on it probably.
now their defense is top tier in the league with him. And I saw John Gruden on like Sunday Night Countdown and like his own show, and I would think, like, I remember he used to coach the Buccaneers, and I was excited going into that season for the Raiders because I thought, oh, John Gruden's in charge now. Let's see what they could do. But I've just been very disappointed with that franchise, especially moving to Las Vegas very soon. Like, there's a lot of momentum going there, getting a top 3 receiver. Even though he is a brat, in my opinion, he's still a top 3 receiver in the league, and
He is talented.
and what's going to happen. But moving on to standings now. What do you think? Who's going to be a shocker this season? Who do you think is going to win? Who's going to win the AFC? Who's going to win the NFC? What do you think is going to happen?
I think a dark horse team this season could actually be the Jacksonville Jaguars
Okay.
or the Arizona Cardinals if things go right.
Really? See, I disagree with the Cardinals statement because I think I don't know how I feel
They
about.
added a lot of veterans on defense. They got Terrell Suggs.
Yeah, the defense, in my opinion, is not the issue in Arizona. I think the offense kind of scares me because they have a new head coach, Cliff Kingsbury. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but I saw a bunch of stuff and reports with how he's giving people like cell phone breaks, and I know he's a very they're trying to go like Sean McVay and do a whole offensive minded thing over there with Kyler Murray now, and I don't know how that's gonna work out.
Came back. DJ's still there.
It's gonna that is a big question mark. It could either be very good or really bad. I didn't really like what I saw from Kyler Murray in the preseason. Like, you look at Daniel Jones, who got a ton of hate at being sixth, and he balled out this year. So in preseason, so. We'll see. And Jacksonville, that is another question mark.
My other hot take, Joe Flacco will be most improved player of the year.
You really believe that?
I really do. He has a Monday night game, week 1, 10-20 against Oakland, and I think he's going to be able to show up, and he has a good defense behind him, offensive weapons. I think he has all the tools needed to succeed.
I mean, listen, I think Joe Flacco, especially coming from you being a Ravens fan, you definitely see something in him that I don't. That's going to be very interesting to see him, new threads, and how that all works out.
He's going to be playing at the stadium where he had his best game.
Yeah. I mean, listen, the talent is there, obviously. Remember when he won a Super Bowl? So we'll see how that turns out. But I think in my opinion, a sleeper team, and I might be a little biased coming from a Jets fan, but I do think the New York Jets are going to have a shocking season for everyone. I think Sam Darnold's very underrated, even considering last season people didn't even really look at him, mainly because he threw a lot of interceptions. That was his problem over in college. But I think going into his second year, you watch Sam Darnold. If you look on PPF, it shows you like he was the most productive quarterback, a top 3 quarterback in the last 3 weeks. He didn't throw a pick. It was like 8 touchdowns. And I think the upside for him is, like, he's got a little bit of a team behind him now, a new offensive-minded head coach. They bring in Le'Veon Bell, C.J. Mosley. Unfortunately, Williamson just went down, Avery Williamson. But the team does look very good, and I think they could be a sleeper. And I really think if everything turns out good, they could sneak away with the division. Moving on to our last thing, we'll talk about baseball and how the postseason it's starting to kind of
shape.
Yeah. And I think the New York Yankees, the Dodgers, Houston are the top 3 teams right now in the league. But who do you think is going to snag the title this year?
Snag the title? I got to say, I think that the Yankees will.
I think New York has a great chance, but the only question mark is really the pitching. And how do you think, what do you like from the Yankees so far?
They're able to handle adversity.
Yeah, and I agree with you. That's always been like a big thing, and
Joe Girardi has stayed underachieving with those teams, and now the new manager,
Aaron Boone, yeah.
is he's really succeeding because the stars do get hurt a lot. Stanton and Judge have been injury prone.
Yeah, that's been the storyline of the Yankee season, and I agree with you with the Aaron Boone thing too, because Aaron Boone, watching the game 2 days ago, Mike Ford just had a walk-off home run. Everyone's watching the game like, oh, why'd you take out Clint Frazier? And Mike Ford hits a walk-off home run, and only Aaron Boone's the one who makes that decision on who to put in the game. I think Boone's really proved himself. He had that whole Savages thing, and the Yankees look like the front runner right now, in my personal opinion. Again, could be a little biased. I think the pitching is weak, but we'll see this year how that'll shapes out.
Are the Mets out of it yet?
The Mets are not out of it. The Mets they had a nice little run after the All-Star break, but they're like behind 4 or 5 games, but it's not really shaping up. There's a lot of teams like Chicago's in the race, Washington, Philly.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough for the Mets to sneak in there. The Brewers, there's a lot of
talented teams.
Yeah, and maybe next year for the Mets. The Mets need.
If the Brewers sneak in, that is a dangerous team to play in a series.
Yeah, I agree. And you know who's not in yet, but is definitely dangerous is the Athletics, who the Yankees have lost to more times than they beat this season. And when they do win, it's
barely
by a it's going to be an interesting postseason this year, and hopefully the Yankees can bring a title back to New York. I'm Matthew Garber.
I'm Hunter Leon.
And that's this week's Sports Weekly.